They'll learn. Like
I know, it's surprising, but was that the station manager?
yeah,
Yeah, Steve Wendell.
He's
the
done a
owner.
few things.
Yeah, Steve, I know.
She edited some, like, you know, to add or, well, not add, really add, but, you know, clean out things and stuff.
I thought the
It's,
best thing she did was she managed to edit the Poppy book by taking the Army and transposing it over to where it should have been.
Mm.
Yeah, 'cause,
That was spectacular, yeah.
yeah,
This would have been Brittany who edited it.
Brittany.
Because
oh,
they screwed up the anthems.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they did.
They did,
Minor.
so
He did
when,
alright.
but on the internet, it's right.
Oh, nice, nice.
I've had 11 interactions with
Oh, let's
that
start, let's,
band.
alright, let's
and
start
I've
this
I've
first.
had it with them.
Alright, let's look at the minutes, let's, read them, review them. Take a minute to review the minutes.
I'll make a motion if we accept them.
Okay, can we second it?
I'll second that.
No corrections, no, okay?
I think there was, I guess we also, Ryan McClure was there at the meeting.
Oh, Ryan
last meeting.
Kuchar?
Yeah,
Ryan Kuchar,
Ryan Kuchar, yeah,
please.
yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
he's-
Ryan.
Oh, he's there,
no,
sorry.
He's
Ryan, Ryan McLean was there. I don't know that he's included in the guest list. So I don't include the town administrator because he was present at that meeting.
Sorry, I missed that.
And then I originally had rented 100 minor detail, 125 chairs, and I increased it to
I
170.
embellished, I'm sorry, it's a hundred and fifty, and one hundred and seventy-five.
I think, you think big, that's all, yeah.
Was that
Any other
second?
corrections or omissions that we wanna put on here? We all set? Make a motion to accept the minutes as read?
Yes, second.
I've done that.
Okay, Tom and Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, so we thought we would just kind of go over, so it's fresh in our mind, things that we might wanna change or things that we might want different. But let's first of all go to I just thought you would see the final expenses. That's what we did for this year. We're coming out with, we get $15.55 left in the account. In my
Have a
account.
party.
Yeah.
We'll have a Coke.
Yeah.
Can we carry it over?
No, and you know the thing is, we don't have a Memorial Day committee account anymore. They put it in the general fund. For some reason, the Memorial Day account is in the general fund account, I think. That's what Kelly
Well,
was telling me.
it will go back, so if they might, they still might have one,
Oh, good.
but what it happens is it goes back to the general fund.
That's not quite true. So there's a line item in the selectmen's budget for Memorial Day,
Oh, good.
which is what it's $1,500, what the Memorial Day would use. She would just give it to me and I would pay it. It's the donation account that went away.
Okay, so, but Kelly, when I was trying to balance this, the money doesn't go into, does it go into a Memorial Day account? She said it goes into the
General fund.
general
It's
fund,
left
I
over.
thought she said, but I could be wrong. So I have to go and look at the paper and check off to make sure that my figures match her figures, cause she doesn't have where it's Memorial Day or not Memorial Day, cause it goes in the same fund. I don't have a separate, I had, 2 years ago, I guess when COVID hit, they put it all in the general fund.
Because it wasn't,
It goes in general fund if
you're
it
talking
wasn't
about
used.
leftover money?
Yeah.
Leftover money.
But I don't have an account for Memorial Day now to put, for these other couple of last bills I gotta send in.
So you're talking about expenses or leftover?
Expenses, I got a couple more expenses to send in, and then this is what I'll have left over.
So leftover money does, in
Go
any,
back, yeah.
in any line item in the budget.
But I have
Back
to
to
use the
general.
general fund account to get my bills paid, not a Memorial Day account.
You would use the selectmen expense account, or services account.
He said you're gonna be all set.
That's
Okay,
where the
I'm all
money's
set.
under.
You're all set.
I just wanna make sure I get it in the right account.
It's just not listed under Memorial Day, it's just listed
Right.
under their account.
Right,
It's not a revolving fund, so the money doesn't go year to year. It's appropriated at a town meeting, spent, whatever's left over goes back.
Back.
Yep.
okay. Alright, so anyways, this is what we had, this is what we spent, this is how we went. Any, have any questions on that, or anything you wanna talk about, or?
I would just comment that next year, should you incur expenses such as these, that you make sure that you get some type of receipt so that you get reimbursed for some of these things, okay?
Yeah,
Mhm.
if I get them in the flea market in Florida.
You can still have
I'll try.
Joe the flea marketeer, you know, in fact, you can, just a piece of paper, you know.
Or have
And
it.
just tell him that it's not gonna come back on him, just to have to something get reimbursed. That's my recommendation to you,
I will. Yeah, I asked for when they give it to you, write
because
it
it
on,
adds up.
you write it on a little
That's all, yeah.
thingy-ma-bop, but I can't send it in because it doesn't have the name, the address, it's not a proper invoice. Kelly, I have to have a proper invoice
I
in order
think
to
if you got a
send it
piece
in.
of paper with a name and an address on it, that,
Yeah.
it's something that,
How about we put
Something
number
in the
one
right
in the,
direction.
things we need to do here,
Yep, get receipts.
get receipts.
Okay. All right, so now we just wanna talk about the things that we would like, that didn't go so well, and things that we would like to maybe change, things that I wanted to get the board's opinion on what you think we could have done differently, or, you have any, go ahead,
I
Joe.
have a unique position, I don't know, most of you probably don't know, but 5 members of my family in the house, they live in a separate, they built an apartment out for us, had COVID. And I was struggling to find, because I felt, number one, guilty that I wasn't there. Number two, I wanted to see how it was going, because I knew you guys had done a lot of work. And I had a hell of a time finding anything. I finally put on WGAW and I listened to it. Now I'm starting to see the films. Now, I was on the cable committee time. Why can't they do that live? Why does it have to be?
Well, I mean, you can do it probably live, but it's gonna take a whole lot more cameras and, you know, because she's
Well,
running,
I
she
know
was
there's-
running across the field to get the right shots.
There's 2 vans, one in Leominster and one in Fitchburg, that they use funds to, so that they could do it remotely. One of those 2, I'm sure, if they didn't have something else to do on Memorial Day, of course, a busy day, but something like that it's possible, because it's done all the time.
Sure.
And I just felt frustrated, because when I was happy to hear,
Here,
you know, hear her doing it, and also hearing on GAW, at least I could hear it. You know, it was frustrating as hell. I said, that's something I was gonna mention when I came.
Okay. You missed something else that you couldn't have seen
What's that?
other than if we had a live broadcast. You've never seen that many people on the common.
And I heard that, how many people, Claudia saying for the ice cream social, there was 800, holy mackerel.
Well, it was at least twice that.
Yeah,
I would guess more than that, frankly. There was a lot of people on that common.
yeah, that's wonderful.
As we came up the road, you know, I was in the lead car, and I'm there's, you know, a family here on this side of the road, like 4 or 5 people, and then down over here, another family, and I'm thinking, because, you know, in days past, they're down the road all the
Yeah.
way. I'm thinking, oh my God, no one's here.
yeah.
And then we turned the corner, and God Almighty, how are we going to get the people in the parade up on the? Because they
I
was
think there was a lot
massive
of
people.
pent-up stuff that, you know, that people know that these people were, and they've all got stories, that were badly treated, and this was a chance of healing. You know, it was a great healing experience, and I think it was great.
Well, I think, when I got home that night, my son-in-law and I both, you know, he's not a Vietnam vet, but we got on the internet after supper, and we tried to find Vietnam speeches. That man in there, in our mind, gave the all-time speech.
Yep, yep.
He really did. It was one of the best. I mean, if you just take World War II, and you could do that too, but he did it.
Yeah, that was a great
Great.
job.
Only to be outdone by the third grader.
Oh, yeah.
She did
I felt bad for the other two kids, she went first, she did a fabulous job.
Even when
They all
the-
did well.
Even when the 12 o'clock bell rang
She
on
didn't
the
even
church,
stop.
she didn't miss.
No, she
When
didn't.
that thing
Oh,
started,
my
when it went
goodness.
off, I thought,
Telephone
oh,
off like that.
God. And
When
then
she-
she just fired right through it.
When
She
she
said, "I
returned
did
her,
it."
when she returned to her seat, I talked to her on the way back and I said, "You did a better job than Abraham Lincoln." Yeah.
When I noticed that that it picked up when she turned around to walk back, it says, I did it.
Yeah.
He did, yeah.
So why don't we, I'd like to know, because we couldn't be in all the places. We had 2 volunteers up at the rec field who were organizing that aspect of us. And we're looking to see, you know, what went right, what went wrong. So tell us, in your opinion.
Well, I think there was a lot of confusion from the people who showed up. When we tell them what to do, they still couldn't get it straight. But I think next year, if you just took Route 68, all the cars go on that side, then they would know before they got there to line up on that side of the road.
So not use the parking lot?
Yeah,
No,
for
for
the
the
cars.
cars,
No.
the cars were unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That they showed up, it was a lot.
And we had 32 antique and
So I
classic
think if
cars,
you just tell them all to
including that
get on the
fire.
other side,
Line
it
up
would
from-
make it a lot simpler.
Line up from that A-frame house, start there and work your way back.
I had to move the band a couple of times because they were in the way of the car.
Yeah, yeah,
But people were cooperative.
Yes.
people cooperative, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And if you guys did your job and told like the classic cars to park on the side of the street when they came down, and some stayed but not as many as I thought, now they may have had a place to go, and that's understandable. But if you were communicating with them and saying at the end of the parade, you know, you're gonna park on either side of the street, blah, 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 then, you know, and they decided not to, that might have been because they had someplace to go, you know, or they just didn't hear you. Cause I noticed a bunch of them went down Elm Street at the end of the parade, but we had some that stayed. But our goal there was to keep people involved after the parade so they could come down and look at a couple cars and of course with the military vehicles, so. But, okay, duly noted. I'm not sure the police would go along with all
That's what
along
they wound
68.
up anyway,
Yeah,
you know.
well, how much more, but if we took all those contingents from the parking lot and put those on 68, would
There's
it
a lot
work?
of people still in the
That's a-
parking lot.
Yeah, so, but in general, fairly organized and you felt you had enough help? Yeah. And you guys are still able to, you know, march in the parade and so that's good. Okay. And so from the standpoint of the other end, the common, what I would do differently is, as they came off the parade and they were being directed up on the common, by that time, so many people that was all, there was no place for them to get through. So I would put, you know, pylons or cones and like have an area for people to come up and march through to get onto the field. And then as soon as they did, get the cones out of the way and people could fill in. And, you know, what I did is once the crowd was up on the common, in order for them to engage, is I asked them to move up closer so that they could be closer to the wreath and closer to what was going on in terms of the speakers. But for the $75 we spent on that sound system,
Yeah, that's good.
well invested. You know, couldn't ask for better than that because
Could hear it well.
you could hear it. And then the drone turned out to be a real asset. I mean, that was Roger Eichenen, and I put that out on Saturday night, last minute pea-brain thought. I said, wouldn't it be great? And Brittany has the equipment, but she doesn't have the license. It's a 107, so she can't do it, and she's our pro. But as Tom indicated, Brittany was doing double duty. I don't know how they got all the pictures. Did they have another photographer doing the parade?
They had another one there.
They had to, because
Yeah.
Brittany was going back between two cameras to get different angles, and, so, had a couple of people sort of offer, and, well, I haven't used it for a couple of years, and I think the battery's not working, but if you need, can't find anybody else, and then Roger Eichenen said, I'm licensed, I'm insured, he said, but there's an issue. You can't go over houses and you can't go over people. I said, well, that kind of precludes you doing it. And he said, not really. He said, as long as you don't hover, and a lot of people don't think they're being spied on. He said, so I can do it from an angle, and I was hoping that he would be able to especially do the beginning of the parade, because I figured that was the open area, we're up at the field, he could be on the field and do it from an angle and not have any implication. But smart guy, because he said to me, I'm gonna stop along the way the day before and talk to some of those people who live in those houses and make sure they're okay with it. And I did the same thing. I stopped at two houses and I just introduced myself and told them what was going on. They're wonderful. They put out coolers of water for people. So couldn't have asked for better cooperation. And then he nailed it because he came down and did the common. So he had the shots over the common, which really was the coup. But he had a vest on and it said FCC, or I think it was FCC, I'm thinking FAA, but FCC, and media. So he had the full Megillah, and you know, as long as he didn't overdo it, I didn't have anybody complain. I thought that was a very interesting dynamic, because we had a combination of Laurie doing the commentation, so we had, you know, words going along with floats coming down, and then you had, you know, along the route there were a lot of great photos being taken, and then you had the drone. So in that respect, I think that particular video, 16 minutes, it's not too long. It's gotten really good numbers. I think it's well over 200 already. So people are looking at that. And then the other video on the ceremonies, extremely well done. Brittany does a really good job as far as editing, as Tom has indicated. And so I think from a standpoint of conveying in a delayed fashion, you know, I mean, I think she worked really hard to get it out as quickly as she did. It was out within a week. And she has other towns she handles. That, in lieu of streaming it live, gives residents an opportunity to reflect on it and join in if they couldn't make it live that day. So from an organizational standpoint, for what transpired on the rec field, because we didn't know how many antique cars were going to come and classic cars. But as you know, I contacted them because I know that their membership would have a lot of veterans. And this Sean Shea, who happens to be the president of North County Street Rods, he thought he'd get 8 to 10, and he brought 18. So, and there were a lot of individuals who brought cars. I thought that was great. And also having that number of military vehicles and them staying around after was a nice plus for the people that came, and sort of reward, and then of course Lions pitching in the way they did, etc. So.
And I think the veterans from Worcester, they were so happy.
Really? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, they were happy to be here. They thought they got treated great. They were happy to get their
Wonderful.
shirts and their hats, and they were just really
Ended up a couple
sweet.
dozen. What did we end up with?
15 or 18, something
Okay.
like that. And we had water for them. We had snacks for them. We had, because we didn't want them to get dehydrated or anything. But they were very happy to come, and they stayed and had food and everything. So I think they would come another year. And
Really?
they probably would have more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had 3 floats for veterans.
Were they full?
Yes, I think they were pretty much full, weren't they? Maybe
Yeah,
there
good.
might have been 1 or 2 chairs on, but I thought they looked like they were pretty full. And my grandson wrote on the back of the first one, just in case, Andre said, just in case you need to give them water, if somebody falls, if somebody gets hurt, you need me to stop, you let me know, you know, so that was,
Yeah, I left 2 cases of water up on the field, Lions had water. Did you notice that people were hydrated and so on and so
Yeah.
forth?
Yep.
I put 3 coolers on each floor, 1 on each floor.
Oh, that's great.
So they had
So-
water there, yeah.
Some of the, what we did when we organized, some of the children we put against the tree line
Yeah,
where-
yeah,
where the
yeah.
shade was, we moved them out of the parking lot, put them up there, and that worked.
Those are baseball.
Yeah, it worked fine, kids did good.
Yeah,
And
except for the Monty
Girl
Tech
Scouts.
Navy group, one guy, one kid falling out.
Up here.
Yeah, and
Knocked his knees.
when I
Yeah.
watched the video, it seemed like she had attention for an awful long time.
Yeah, there was a parade rest and that, holding them in back like that, and then if they lock their knees, they're gonna go down.
They're gonna
Yeah.
go down,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So and so that would be a question I would ask you, because I asked Patrick, because he was there, my son. Do you think they had too much time? They had enough time, talking about the organization aspect at the rec field, or not enough time? What would you say? Too much time?
I think my view is you gave them the right amount of time.
Okay.
What they need to do is they need to, maybe I can talk to the captain over there and say, you know, you need to let those kids know that when they're standing at attention or at a parade dress and it's warm, you don't lock your knees because you'll go down every time. I mean, the very first thing, I think it was the first day at Annapolis. That's the first thing they did, is put us out in the sun and just wait, and they actually waited for us to fall, just so they could make a point.
Yeah, they probably should have been standing at ease.
Right,
Yeah.
they should have been at ease.
Could have moved their bodies a little bit.
You know, but if you squeeze the amount of time that they're there, now you're gonna
Gotcha,
have
yeah.
problems with people coming in at the last minute.
So the parade kicked off at 10:58, 2 minutes beforehand. And I think it got finished sooner than we thought, because that gave you had like 10 minutes at the, before noontime.
Well, it was more than that.
Yeah, well, you were doing some ad lib in there, so.
Yeah, it was more than that. I was trying to
So-
find ways to.
Well, I was waiting for the
Talking about
dance,
something.
Tom, but you didn't do the dance, so.
They did good.
Yeah.
But, and I think if we can, I don't wanna monopolize this, but, if we could have pop-up tents next year, rain, shine, otherwise, because I went down to the field, pardon me, the common, at 12:30 the day before, and I said, OMG, these veterans are gonna melt, because they're all gonna be out in the sun. So I changed the whole configuration of the common around, and my primary goal was to take care of the vets. So we moved them further up under the shade, and I said, I'm gonna have to sacrifice some of the ROTC and the sports teams and the scouts, but they're young and they have to be out in the sun, somebody has to be out in the sun. Yeah, but I really believe that having the pop-ups for the seniors and for the singers would be advantageous, because we had to move them at the last minute because they were in the sun. And I mean, you can't dictate that anymore. Did you want a rainy day? Of course not. Did you want a sunny day? Yes. Would you sun with clouds? Would have been perfect, but you can predict that. So you have those pop tents. You can have 3 or 4 of them leaning up against a tree, and whatever the weather is, pop them up at the last minute and get those people underneath, because from a standpoint of, it was very difficult to hear the senior singers, partly because they wanted to be moved. So they did get moved out of the sun into the shade. And so therefore they were further removed, and they didn't have any public address system to be able to sing. So that would be one recommendation I would make. The second would be that the taps by Laura Foley was spectacular. If you were 15 feet from the echo tap, it would have been great, but you couldn't hear it up on the field. You couldn't hear it up.
They needed to practice.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to
No, he
practice
was in the
before.
cemetery.
It was in the
Yeah,
cemetery,
okay.
which
Too
is
far back.
a tradition. So my recommendation was you either get him a public address system where he has a microphone where he could be heard, because I didn't hear him, but I understand he was good.
Yeah, we could hear it.
But, you know, and it's right at the end, so people were starting to rumble a little bit, because we had the unveiling. And so that has to be a final point before Tom ends it. And I couldn't hear it at all, just a tiny bit, so.
Well, also, I think most people that play that, and they're playing the answer, they don't play it loud.
Oh, is that traditional, Tom?
Well, mostly they don't. I mean, they go away just to give you a little distance, but they I think if we told them you're in there, so, you know, don't worry about trying to make sure it's at a distance, just play it.
Yeah, cause it was really cause when we had it the last time we
He
did
could
it,
have put
it
everything
was
he had
perfect.
in
We
it,
had
and you couldn't,
that
you could
young
have probably
boy,
heard.
yeah.
I didn't hear him, I didn't pick him up until, almost he was through.
Correct, yeah. And he had, I don't know instruments. If Laura had a bugle, he had a trumpet. If Laura had a trumpet, he had a bugle. So there were different instruments, and therefore different modulation, I guess. So, but I would say if we had to sacrifice him, literally the tradition of being in the cemetery and get the response echo up closer, I would do that.
Yeah, in the past, there have been years that we put the answer behind the church,
Oh, okay, so closer to the, yeah.
closer to,
Yeah.
closer to.
I would even
everything.
say in front of the church. I mean, you know, he's within viewing distance, and even if he were to point a little bit towards the cemetery, because that's the idea, you know, to keep the tradition, that would be, I would recommend.
Cause last time when we did it, we had a student who had autism, he played, and then, a teacher, it was a young teacher out of Worcester, Nancy Alfonso had him for a student. And so he came out and they practiced a lot. I still think you can't just do things cold turkey, you need to practice.
Yeah.
And you need to hear how it sounds so that you're prepared for that day instead of doing everything cold
Yeah,
turkey.
and that was gonna
I
be my
certainly-
remark, that, you know, whatever we decide to do, they need to get out and practice. So they
Together?
can hear them.
Absolutely, yes, they
Together?
need to be
To-
together.
Yeah,
Together.
okay, good. And Laurie, what about you, from the standpoint of that added to the event? How do you think your part of it went?
Fine, I mean, I had no issues, I had some notes from you, it went fast, you know, it was very fast, and it was just kinda like, you know, off the top of my head, I'm trying to see people, trying to remember names just because it's going fast, so, I mean, it went well.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I had a great time doing it.
That's all I need to hear.
I don't know about Flo's yard just because there was bees. It was kind of scary.
really?
We didn't get bit. Brittany's allergic, so she was kind of concerned. She's like, "Don't worry, I have an EpiPen." And I'm like, "Okay, well, can you let me know where the EpiPen is, just in case?" So, so she was a little just concerned about that. But like, we were under a nice shade tree. We
Yeah.
had a good view of everybody, so you know that went
So
really
on
well.
a scale, you know, it worked out okay.
Oh yeah, it was great. We were, like I said, in a really, really great
Certainly
spot.
sounded great.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, with Joyce and Rick Green, you know, they immediately lined up with Steve Rendell from GAW, so he was able to record the whole service ceremony, and you know, they had plenty of places you could plug into, so that worked out well. And as I commented earlier, the band was Mets. They screwed up a few things, and they, next day, they like apologized to me after they wanted their money immediately. And then every day since then, they've been, where's my money, and I told them exactly how it works. And so then I just literally told them, don't write me anymore, because you'll get it when the next warrant goes out. But they said they had COVID issues, so they had to fill in some people at the very end, and that was their quote, I think, excuse for not coordinating it properly, because I spoke with Janine, beforehand. I had a list of the songs they were gonna play, and Janine said, I've already spoken with the band leader, and we have it all in line. And I said, okay, I wanna make sure I had that in my notes, and that didn't quite happen, so I would, I definitely would not recommend that band again.
So what do you think, should we, my whole issue is, the thing is, every time Memorial Day comes around, we're scrounging around to try to find a band. We can never seem to get a band, and if we wait too long, we can't get a decent band. So I can't remember, I thought Quabbin was 2004, but I have to double check on that to see when that.
2024?
Yeah, I thought that's what they told me, but I'm gonna call them again to see if we have them next year. All right, then we'll be all set. But if we don't, we really should we should reserve a band now.
You can see, as of July 1st will be your new fiscal year for money if you need to put a deposit or anything like that down. Just so you know. I mean, so you could do it, I would recommend doing it as early as that, depending on if you can.
So
There
if
are
we
a
do,
number
that's
of
gonna take,
bands out there. I thought of the correction officer of the band, because you have there's a lot of corrections officers that live in Hubbardston and surrounding towns. Never been out here.
Also the state police.
Do it ahead of time. State police have a band.
We tried like heck. I even know somebody at the state police and
Yeah.
I tried and I was in contact with him and they got the information too late.
Too late,
They had too
yeah.
many people, so
'Cause they had
that's
to go-
another thing where
we
you
gotta
can
we
go
do
need
it
to
now.
do
early.
that now.
I
We need to
retained the
reserve.
contact with the state police. I have that. Kristen, she works for one of the executives, so something, definitely. Most of them, like for example, the ROTC, they said, we can't commit. It wasn't until like March, and then I bugged them in March, but, putting the word out again, certainly can help. I've already contacted the band director at Quabbin and asked for, do you know if next year is Quabbin's? But,
Did they give you an
they have not
answer?
responded, yeah.
All right.
But at least by reaching out and knowing what their time frame is to schedule, they
I
get
think
be a
they told
reminder in the
me-
calendar to call them,
Yeah.
you know, if it's not until February, we call them in February, but at least we know and we
Right.
have that deadline.
We should know each year, we should know.
I've also talked to Elaine Glidden, is that the town
Yeah.
clerk in Barry?
Yeah,
And I asked if she knew if next year was, you know, the year for Hubbardston, and she didn't know, but she said she would check and get back to me, but I think we need to find out if.
We need to find
It's a
that.
regular, they go right in the same all the time.
Fashion, yeah, the cycle.
We just need to pick up what the cycle is and we'll know forever.
If you could get Brittany to do a PSA showing that event that we had, because when I was watching it, classic small town America, I thought, you know, classic, and something to be really proud of, and you should be. But you gotta start early, and,
Tom, is that possible? You can have her do a PSA that says, hey, we're looking for a band. Can she do that through the cable?
yeah, and we have a cable committee
Yeah.
meeting coming up the
Yeah, we-
first or second week in June, so we
Yeah,
can
we
talk
got a
about
June
Memorial Day.
meeting, so we can talk
July.
about that. Or July.
Because Claudia will tell you that when we reached out, repeating myself, but when we reached out for a band, we got 6 bids. It was a band from Rutland and 2 bands from New York and 3 from Florida. And they wanted, I'm serious, and that was, this was through a vendor who handles bands, and 6 responses, and that was back in November. And 5 were from out of state, and they wanted you to cover the, but I think the correction officers and the state police we were looking for, their honor guard as opposed to a band, but, why not? We have state troopers living in town too.
So the band costs us $1,500 this year. So if we get a band, which we have to secure them first, now, for next year, because we won't get one. That's gonna be $1,500, that will be all of the Memorial Day fund. I have a ton of stuff left over that we used for the decorations and things like that. We wouldn't have anything for anything else.
Well,
If
why
we
don't
did
we, why don't we bring that forward to, I mean, that's how that's what's in that's
Allowed,
what.
that's what they allow us to have 1,500.
Yeah, but there is other money that someone just mentioned that maybe we could get a little bit more if we.
How about the cultural council?
Oh, that would
That's a-
blow our, we have $6,000 total.
You're
We-
on the cultural, yeah.
I'm the chairman until the 30th of June. And we had $6,083 total. And we had 27 applicants last year, so we dole it out very frugally. And in most cases, we can't even, someone asks for 1,400, and we give them 700. Someone asks for 500, we give them 300. And when they submit the application, they also indicate if they will do it for less, and they have other sources to find it. So we get them involved and help cover them, subsidize them. But that would probably be out of the range of what we could.
Why not try to get one of our organizations that have a 501c3 designation and run some kind of a raffle or something
There's
to
a
raise
few.
funds.
The church does a
For that
501c3,
particular-
the Friends do a raffle thing,
Right.
the Lions do raffle.
So that might be a way of raising money, you know, and the Lions Club too.
Or
so
if
that
you
would
did
be
a
something.
tent up at, you know,
A
field
fair,
day or
yeah.
field.
It's impossible to say to the town, okay, so you've seen what we've done for the parade. Parade was pretty fabulous, but the band's gonna cost $1,500. We need a bigger budget. I mean,
I don't think 1,500 is enough, I mean, to.
I don't think that's an unreasonable question to ask.
This
Or we're
happened to
being
me.
too bold.
Probably should have put it in the budget to get passed,
The budget's hard.
didn't.
Well, it happened to me, and some of you know this, but it happened to me, but it was worse than that, that they were running short on money, so they cut some budgets, and they cut the Memorial Day budget to 0 one year, and left me trying to figure out how to do it. So what I did is I got on the internet, let everybody know that our town wasn't able to support us, and we needed money,
Yeah,
and it just poured in.
and I think you'll find that,
And there was-
especially when you see what the guys did for the Vietnam Memorial.
Oh, yeah.
If people know that there is a need for money and it's for this specific thing,
Yeah.
you open.
They step up to the plate.
Yes.
It's not a matter of not wanting to give that in the budget, it's a matter of, it's a really tight budget.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
if
got
you were
it.
at town meeting last night, you know that even the school was not, we're not able to sustain what they're asking.
I got $100 check from a lady that was 90-some years old, was born and raised in Hubbardston, went to school in Hubbardston, lives out on the Cape. Never, I don't know who she was. I mean, I got a check from her,
Yeah.
but she said, so, you know.
Claudia, how about
get
from
these
your
out.
standpoint, from everything you did here at the senior center and the parking lot and so on and so forth, what do you think? Were there
Well,
things
I
you
think
do
it was
differently?
good, it was a lot of work. And, I just think that we can't pick up until, you know, people are coming here and they're gonna eat, you can't kick them out of the table. So the field is done, everybody's picked up, gone home, they're ready to go, if they're gonna go. But if they come here and they have something to eat, they're gonna stay and they're gonna hang around, they're gonna visit, and whatever. By the time they leave, we're tired. So now we gotta pick up everything. I gotta put this, but we used every single chair in this whole town for the floats. We took these out, it was a lot of lifting, I was glad my grandson was here to help, Sue was lifting, everybody was lifting chairs, putting them on the float, getting them ready, and yeah. So the help we need, and it just seems like we never have enough help, and then when everybody's gone, I'm the last one to leave, so I gotta go around and, okay, now I gotta put this room back together, cause I don't want them coming in and saying, look at this room, it's a mess. Chairs gotta be put back where they were, everything has to be back where they're together, so I have to go and check and everything. I forgot to check under the library, though, I don't know what that
You're
looked like.
fine.
I don't know what that looked like. And of course, you have to break everything
Yes,
down
John
up
and
there.
I did that.
So it makes the day a little longer, a little bit tired, but it was great. It was great. We didn't really have enough chairs for out there because we had everything on the float. on the floats. We lifted everything on
Yeah.
them, we'd had to take them all off, put them all back. It's a lot of physical work, physical
So you
work.
need to make a
We need-
crusade beforehand to
To-
secure,
A group of people to come in and clean up, help
and
us
if you
clean up.
think you need 8, get 12. Because 2 are not gonna show up and 2 are gonna have other excuses, so.
I mean, that's if we have the Lions Club, if they continue to offer that after a parade, if they continue to do that, or if they're not gonna, if it was
How
just
about the kiddos
one-time
looking for
deal.
that community time?
Well, you know, that was wonderful, but they didn't show up. Joey showed up, but the others,
Yeah?
they're busy working, or, yeah, I think the boy there, Blake, he had COVID or something happened to him. So you know what, you really can't count on them until, if they show up, great.
So do you
Joey
report
showed-
later on that they volunteered and didn't show up?
We don't sign off on their hours.
I don't sign up on their hours. They get their hours. We didn't sign off on their hours because they weren't
It's a
there.
great way to pick up hours, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of them had a job or
Well,
something.
you look at the kid and you say to him, I need your commitment, you gonna make it or not? You know, and if the time comes, I'll be happy to make that statement to him, and, you know, and if you don't, we're not gonna sign off on your hours. Is that all fair?
Yeah, they don't, yeah, we just don't have them to sign, cause they have the sheet usually, or we
Yeah,
have to
and
sign
he
off.
can't help it. I mean, the guy had COVID. He's not gonna come. The girl has a job. She was hoping to come, but it took me a long time for them to call me back. There was a lot of phone calls back and forth, and never got the call back. You know, that kind of thing. And the seniors are getting older, so it's a little bit more difficult.
Thank God for that.
But we may not have that problem if the Lions Club don't wanna continue to do that. If they just did that one time, because it was a special day, they might not wanna do hot dogs or something every year,
Or they might.
or they might. I don't know what they feel like they wanna do.
Well, that's why we
So-
wanna be sure that we make
Or I
sure we
might say to the
thank
Lions Club,
everybody.
okay, I have tables in there if you wanna set them up and take them down. A lot of young men in there.
I know somehow, I mean, I was here helping move tables, I don't know that, you know, I know they were picking up their stuff and some of them were helping too,
Yeah.
but. Like he said, you just need a group of people, you know, that are here, that say like, hey, I'm here and, you know,
Yeah.
willing to help, so.
If the Lions Club knew that you needed the help, they would have been
Oh,
there.
I'm sure they would've, yeah.
They would have been.
I mean, I'm not saying anything bad against anybody, I'm just saying, it's a lot of physical work.
So I recommend you put that in place next year, that you
Yeah.
reach out and say, look, this is one aspect where we could really use some more help, and, I think you'll get the right answer.
Yeah.
I think we will, yes, we will.
Also for Gardner, they had posted they have a page that's called Gardner, Massachusetts, What's Going On. And they said, thanks to Jeff Bowers for these awesome photos of the Hubbardston Memorial Day Parade. Next year, it will be worth your while to head to Hubbardston with the family, as this adjoining town knows how to put on a Memorial Day Parade. Great things happening in Hubbardston this Saturday too with their community day.
How about that?
So there was quite a few comments even from Gardner, so word is spreading and they said that, you know, they're not having a big parade. So, I mean, that's just showing, even going forward, that we're a town to look at for events.
I did a farmer's market in Holden yesterday, and I had a number of people from Holden come over.
You're famous.
Huh?
You're famous.
Yeah.
No, actually, they didn't, I don't think they actually knew who I was. There was a guy next to me who was an Army, we bat each other all the time. He went around and told everybody, because he actually came to the parade, and then I told him about them being online, and he was walking around telling all the vendors, and I had people coming over that there were people from Holden here.
Florida, North Carolina, and California. I talked to people who came because they had relatives who were on the monument and hadn't been in town in 40 years, but heard about it and came. So we did a pretty good job of getting the word out there.
I made sure at the beginning that I got a ride down to the rec field in the back of a cop car.
Yeah,
My first
yeah, good
time,
for you,
very
yeah.
uncomfortable. I
That's
don't
what you
recommend
say
it.
now, but
Were your
So-
We have a photo of that, by the way.
Were your,
We have a
hands-
throwing on the back of the car.
Were the
yeah.
hands behind your back?
No, they were not. But I was like, really, I want to sit in the front. But we had more people going down there, so I'm short, and it was easier to just get in the back seat. So, but I went down and I talked to all the people on the floats, and I, you know, kind of just, and I went and I made sure which car clubs were there because we weren't sure who was, you know, showing up, and everybody was just grateful, you know, to be there. They were thankful. I thanked the veterans for coming out. Like I said, I knew that they were traveling, you know, talked to them, and just everybody was just, it was a really good vibe, and, you know, everybody, like I said, was just there for that day and just really, you know, in the moment and in a good moment, so.
How did the Mott
I
vehicle
think-
work out? How did the Mott bus work out?
I think it worked out okay. I think we need to have the poor guy needs to have a little more instruction. I think he could have maybe come in here, picked up people, but he picked them up along the side of the
He
road.
did indeed, I
So
know
I
that
haven't
part
got
of
the,
it.
I haven't got the feedback on that. So I
Okay.
think we could maybe make that a little bit more clear as to what we expect from the
And that can be very effective,
Yes.
because
We need to
this
make
is,
that a little clearer.
Laurie said, and I know that Brittany had to make some moves up and down, and she said, how can I get up to the rec field? I said, go catch the bus.
We were on the bus together being dropped off
Yeah, there you
together
go.
down here, so.
And Salvador's did a great job by lending us the two vehicles, and they were parked, the tank was parked at my daughter's pallet shop over the weekend, and people were contacting her and saying, you got some rough customers you're putting up with? You need a tank in the yard, or stuff of that nature. But I talked to Angelo on Friday when they delivered the truck, because I just thought they were gonna have two golf carts too. And he said, oh, nobody told me about those, and we didn't get the golf carts. But I think if we make that bus effective, I think it accomplishes the goal of getting people
Yes.
from one end to the other, should it be necessary. So that was good. I didn't bring it, but I should have. I have a stick with over 200 photographs taken by the photographer we hired. Great photos. A lot of still shots that complement the video, and I'll volunteer, Claudia and I have talked, to send thank yous out to everybody and include one photo of their group, you know, a really good photo, because Jeff, the photographer, went along and did all that. So I've done it with the police, I've done it with some of the vets, I've done it with some of the other groups. So I'll find the time within the next week, because that's the time to do it, because we may be asking them again next year. So if we have a really good photo that they may not have had the opportunity to get, done by a professional, along with a short thank you. Now, Claudia and I have talked about that, and you mentioned a note. Would you rather do it that way, or, because I'll provide you with a stick, and it has 200, really, he did 270, and then he edited them, and they're down to about 200 photos, and they're all, I'll drop one off. But
Yeah, I'd
tell me
rather-
what you
if
wanna do.
If you wanted, I'll put it
I
in
don't
your
necessarily
hands.
want to, but I will.
I'll put it in your hands there, Bill,
Okay,
if
I'll
that's,
do it,
that
yeah.
probably would be better.
Yeah, 'cause
Next year we
I
can get a generic
I know all the
note or
groups. I've
something.
already followed up with the Army National Guard and Sergeant Burke and thanked him and sent him a picture, and I sent it to his headquarters, and you know, those are the ones that will pay dividends in the future. That follow-up is essential,
You
so.
could probably order cards online that are like pre-printed, and what you could do is at your next meeting, or just have you guys come in and everybody could just sign it and send it off.
Yeah.
But you know, you could say, get a card that says thank you on the outside, put it on the inside,
I
thank you
have
for
a
being
nice,
part of
I
our.
have a nice one,
But I don't think
I'd
we
show
need to
it
do
to you.
both,
Yeah, right, no,
so
so, let's
Okay.
just do one right now,
Yeah.
'cause
electronically, everybody's getting that, and they
Right.
can
Oh,
share
okay.
the picture easily enough, and
Right.
so, you know, and I probably will forget two, but I'll do my best.
So I got a call from the Hubbardston Food Store. I want to just tell them that this guy by the name of Oliver called from Texas, and evidently he saw the video on TV in Texas. So he called, and I don't know why he called the Hubbardston Food Mart, but he wanted to make a donation to the Memorial Day Committee Fund or whatever. From Texas, he had seen it, so I said, how cool was that? I tried to call him, though I hadn't gotten any answer. I just left a message, tried to call him back, but so I don't know anything about that one.
Remember, he's gotta
But
make it
anyways.
a generic to the Memorial Day Fund.
Right,
Yeah, 'cause
It
they
sounds
can't-
like that's going away, so just double check with
Right.
Ryan.
Right, we
Make
don't
sure
have a
where he
donation
would need to
fund?
be
Yeah.
written to.
'cause I
yeah,
know
so
that
where would we
the
put
others-
it?
You would have to ask Ryan. I'd go through Ryan,
We'd have
like,
to-
before you tell anybody anything.
Right,
You're gonna be struggling to find an event to replicate this, because you had the Vietnam veterans that, you know, were really treated badly, I think, after that war, and a lot of other people did. But you got an event to really build on, and you gotta figure out what's the next.
Well, I had a brain fart yesterday. Every
I
five.
thought I smelled it, yeah.
Every 5 years, we get out on the Vietnam Wall, you recite names of guys you know who were lost. And the last couple of times, what they've done is, you get the name of the guy you knew, but they also add 20 names you have to recite. So this year, it's up to 30, because they must be running out of guys to do it maybe. But I was wondering if maybe next year or something, you get the list of everybody that's been killed in a war, and people go up and recite the names. You could have kids do it, veterans do it, and you could say Civil War, Spanish America, World War I, World War II, whatever, and recite names. Just
Which I think that's a great idea, because what you're gonna find is that people are gonna perk up, because they look at the wall, they look at the monument, they don't really spend a lot of time. But if you did that, in our Civil War, we lost 44 from Hubbardston, as I mentioned in my talk, and I would guarantee you that half those names people would, oh,
yeah, you could have
we know
you
somebody.
could have volunteers go up and do 10
Yeah, I
apiece
think
or
the kids
something.
might be a great thing for the
and
kids.
just
What do you
as
think?
long as
Yeah.
they go
Yeah.
through the names first
Be a
when
good
they
history
pronounce
lesson
them.
for them
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
And as long as they go through the names beforehand and pronounce them correctly. 'Cause
yeah, right, oh, like you
I
said,
had a problem
practicing.
with a couple.
Can imagine, yeah. And I went back on Monday night, just to check on everything to make sure the common was cleared up, and I picked up the cones up at the parking lot, et cetera. But there was a couple up at the monument, and I happened to recognize the person because I hadn't seen him out of uniform, so to speak, but it was Brian Handy. And Brian had volunteered in kind services to weld the pyramids of the cannonballs, and it wasn't an easy task because we had issues with getting the cannonballs delivered and so on and so forth, but never said no, did it in kind, so on and so, also made a contribution to the monument. He and his wife were there. Now, the last time I went to pick up the cannonballs, I said to Brian, I hope you're gonna make it on Memorial Day, and he said, I can't. He said, I'm a Mason, and we do a barbecue in Barry, and he said, so I'm gonna be in Barry during the day doing the barbecue. But he took the time later in the day to come and look at that monument with his wife, and that kinda hit me. And when I said to him, knowing he's been in town for a while, I said, Brian, do you recognize some names? He said, almost all of them, you know, because he knows so many people in town and interacted with them, so, and I think that, you know, going by other times I have, that people up there looking at it, so I think that we accomplished the purpose. My goal is to keep the banners up for a month, and then I think maybe, guys, what do you think? Vietnam flag's still up there. Do you think we leave it up for 2 weeks? What do you think? Because we're not really supposed to be on it?
No, we're not really supposed to be on it, but.
Yeah. What do you think? 2 weeks would be next Monday.
That'd be fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
okay.
thinking July 4th.
I was gonna say, unless you leave it through the 4th of July.
Okay, I'm up for that.
And then take it
Okay.
on
Yeah,
down the
unless
5th.
somebody,
Yeah.
Nobody's complained, not that I've heard.
yeah, okay, so that's what we'll do. I'll leave it up until July the 4th. And if you were there and the 12 o'clock when it went up and a breeze came up and both flags were unfurled and blowing nicely, so it was fortuitous that happened at that point, so.
I'm grateful they did get it up.
Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Well-
The guy took him 7 minutes to shimmy up the pole. And, but man, all I could think of was those Hawaiians going up the
Mm-hmm,
palm trees and getting the coconuts down and selling them to the tourists, but he had the rope and up and up and up. Guy goes all over the country to do it. And
Bill and I have, through this whole process, have several times said, you know, someone's looking out for us because, you know, things that we're
falling into place, yeah.
were falling into place that we weren't involved in trying to get into place at the time. So the weather, you know, the 2 weeks before looked like it was just gonna be a disaster. Couldn't have been better.
Well, I think it was good, and I think what I found that I was very proud of, I think the whole, and I've been I always love that. I think the whole community came together. I mean, we had the old, we had the young, we had Girl Scouts, we had the Boy Scouts, we had the fire department, we had the police department, we had everybody together as a community supporting this event, and for me, that makes my heart big. That's what I love. I don't like segregation kind of thing, and when we can all come together to support a cause, for me, it's well worth the whole thing. It's well worth it. And we worked hard, all of us worked hard, and you know what, it shows. We did it the best way that we knew how. Was it perfect? No. But we tried, and we worked as hard as we possibly could to try and make the day special. And I think it showed, and I think we all did a great job. So I'm very proud to be part of this committee. I'm very
I'll drink to that. Of course, I'm
Absolutely.
Irish, so I drink to a lynching, so.
Yeah. So I have nothing else
Oh,
unless you have something else you wanna bring
Yes, well, John's
up.
brought up a good point.
What was the point?
Point is that, what do we do to replicate it? What do we do? We gotta talk about that, we gotta think about that. You know, what do you think we can do to continue the stimulation of the parade? We all know, 16, 17, 18, 19, the parade really, and the day was not well attended, and by comparison, making a comparison.
Yeah.
So, what do we do?
Well, I really like the idea of reading the names. I think that's,
It's a good idea.
They do that in Princeton, and they have the bell. Every time they read a name, the bell goes. And they do it in Princeton.
Now, thank goodness we lost nobody in Nam, and we lost nobody in Korea. In fact, the monument in front of the school is a little misleading, because it says, for all those who sacrificed the Korean War, so on and so forth, and it lists 11 names, but they're the World War II casualties, so we're already on the World War II monument. I don't mind repeating it, but if somebody looks at that and doesn't read it, they would think we lost 11 in Korea, and thank goodness we did not. So that list would be the 44 from the Civil War, World War I, I think we lost 3, and then World War II we lost 11.
Right.
So what would we do to promote? I mean, we did a lot of promotion here. We did a lot of advertising. We did a lot of flyers. We did a lot of, there was a lot that got out to people. I
The
mean, we did a
videos, the
lot,
PSA.
the videos, we did, you know, there was a lot.
Yeah, WGAW.
So how would we replicate that? How would we get, what could we do to make it bigger? Now, do we wanna talk about what
Yeah,
we've
I'll
done?
bring it up, because I did it independently. I always, when I do my math, 1 and 1 is 3, so I thought maybe if, I reached out to Barry, and asked them if they would consider joining up with us, and, you know, cause a lot of kids go to Quabbin, 7 miles away, they have a population of 5,843 versus ours, you know, 4,400, whatever it might be. And just, when I contacted Mrs. Glidden, and then I talked with their VSO, Tony Biznecki, and he also does the Memorial Day Parade with American Legion Post Number 2. And so I interacted with him, and I don't believe it's gonna go anyplace. Their demographics are older. He said I wasn't acting on behalf of the committee, I was doing it as an independent, and told him that I was on the committee, etc. And I asked him how it went, and he said, well, you know, he had the same issue with volunteers not showing up and last minute type thing. But he said the demographics of their veteran population would not dictate them coming to Hubbardston. and if the veterans aren't gonna come, the families aren't gonna come. And so they, their veterans actually walk between 3 and 4 miles between going to the cemeteries and then from South Barry up to the Common, and they didn't have a float. So I mentioned, well, we had 3 floats. So I thought that maybe we could add something to it, and then we would parlay, instead of the 5-year cycle, it would now be a 2.5-year cycle, so to speak, with getting the band and the ROTC. He said they don't do anything until December. He personally did not think it would work, and but he would float the idea. But I would take that as probably not gonna happen. And then I looked at Rutland, I didn't contact Rutland, and that's 9 miles away, and I think that's probably too far. So, then I had asked about, what happens in Gardner, and they said lately their turnout has been less and less, so
They reduced their parade route.
they reduced the parade route.
They start now at the American Legion and they march down to the Memorial Day Park.
That's it?
Yep,
Is that like,
that's what I understood.
yeah,
I could be wrong, but
yeah, would that be an eighth of a mile?
not even that.
Not even that?
Oh, right there, okay.
I would just
But they have this ceremony.
advertise like you did this year and just
I was gonna
start
say-
it earlier. You know?
I think it's,
Put
I
some
don't think you're
banners
gonna
up in town
have trouble getting
advertising it.
people here. I really don't, especially with the videos that are going out now. I think what you've done already, shows what you're capable of. And, I mean, they're even saying, hey, look at us. And that's Gardner, that's a
So
city.
maybe we could, I mean, I did talk to Gardner, I did talk to the mayor's office, and they sent me to the veterans agent, and then they gave me the name of the lady who did the parade this year. But you know what, if you don't have an ambitious group, if you don't have somebody who really cares and wants it to be something, if it's just a problem for them, they shouldn't be on the committee. They shouldn't be here. So that's how I feel that they were, because I called them, they never got back to me with anything. So I would think if they, I wouldn't mind taking a personal visit and going up there. We could maybe invite them to join our parade. Maybe they need to come here, and we can, because we did such a great job, that maybe that would make it even a little better.
So
Memorial
pro-
Day, each town has their own thing they're
Their
gonna
own-
be doing.
Yeah.
They're not gonna be coming to our parade when they got their own stuff to go. We have to put together what we want for our program and incorporate it to make it interesting to the people to come. Maybe a guest speaker. When's the last time we had a Medal of Honor speaker on a Memorial Day? That's quite impressive sometimes,
Great idea,
you
yeah.
know,
Who is a Medal of Honor? I mean, how do you?
There are at least
Probably
100 in
Legion,
Massachusetts.
you should
but
put that
but
in.
that's just something I'm saying, like, I mean,
I'll reach out, because there's a Medal of Honor Association.
Yeah.
And actually, I would think maybe Tom would reach out, because you'd have more clout being a veteran yourself. But if I get you a contact person, will you reach out?
I'd be happy
Okay.
to.
Yeah, MOH.
But if you just advertise like you did this year, I think you'll get a response. It's
Yeah,
just
but
like-
we're not gonna have the big draw this
So
year
what,
was the
what if we
unveiling
do
of the monument.
something like this? What if we just say, it's time to honor all our veterans? And what if we put something together like that? Now it's time to honor, we did our Vietnam vets, it's time now for all our vets, our World War I, our World War II, I mean, anybody,
I
all
had
our
an idea
veterans of
before
today.
this, if you get some costumes, probably cost money, you could have a couple of guys get in Civil War uniforms, a couple of guys World War I uniforms, carrying flags or banners or something.
Well, we had the militia doing that, yeah.
I mean, it's,
I
There's
know,
so
but
many
I know a
different-
guy
Build
that has
on
a
what
lot of
we
World
already
War II
did,
stuff.
maybe we need to build on what we've done.
I mean, there's a lot of things that
But I'd be
we,
looking for things like the reading of the names and maybe getting a Medal of Honor winner to come in. And they, some of them are very anxious. They're not gonna tell their story, by the way. You know that, right? They're not gonna tell their story. They're gonna tell the story of the Medal of Honor, which is fine. If you look up Medal of Honor website and you look and see what you do to get it. But they'll talk about the honor of having bestowed it and so on and so forth, but I've listened to some of the talks and they're really good, so that's an idea. But we're gonna have to have, you know, something that is gonna be the draw. I mean, people are happy with the organization, they were happy with parade, they were happy with, I mean, the Lions gave out almost 400 hot dogs, and you guys had 800, you think it came to?
I think we had, I don't know, Laura, you did the ice cream.
I don't know, we were scooping quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. So it was
Still not a
well
lot
received.
left, but
And would you say that there was representation from veterans, there was representation from the guys in the tanks, there was representation from a lot of the other contingents? So, you know,
oh yeah.
and then
Oh, yeah,
their
a lot of
families,
people-
of
yes,
course, yeah.
a lot of
yeah.
everybody came. You know,
I
lots
think
of
that
different
was
people
a
came
wonderful way to end it, you know.
Yeah.
Not everybody's gonna go to a big fancy cookout after, and, you know, the fact that when, Tom Lassen asked me how many hot dogs, I went, 500, and they gave out 400, so it wasn't bad. So.
And then people also see what happened last year, and they know that, hey, if they're doing it this year, they might do it again, and that might be a reason, or they'll know where to go. You know, this year it was just, some people might not have known where to go, because they just showed up, you know, and so we try it and we tell them, but some people left, I think, under the,
There was-
after the unveiling too, they didn't realize it was
At the
the
meeting,
continuance.
at the Lions meeting, when this came up, there was no discussion. It was unanimous.
Yeah.
Now, it followed on the fact that, you know, the town supports a lot of things that we do to raise money to help people and help, you know, all of the other things that Lions do. And, you know, one of the things to become a Lion is that you don't tattletale around town about what we do. That's not, it's not about us, it's about what the money can do. And we sometimes feel, and we talk about this often, that, you know, people are throwing a lot of money at us, and they're not seeing what we're doing. Well, that's,
A lot of it isn't publicized.
yes,
You're not
well,
talking about
you know,
grants for-
because we're helping someone who probably doesn't want the whole town know that they need. So it's one of those opportunities for us to say, hey, you know, we're here, you just gotta ask us. And I'm gonna be in this committee next year, I promise you, I hope. And, as soon as we get started, I'll make sure that they're still gonna do that. I mean, I talked to all of the guys and gals that were over there. You know, they had a great time.
Well, we had a great idea of getting people here. How about, this can either be something everybody points to as being the best. I'd rather think of it as the beginning, you know?
Yeah.
And I think we just gotta, maybe, how about inviting people to read the names of the Civil War?
Yeah.
Names, or the Revolution. You know, let's, kids are not really being taught history
Yeah,
the way they
exactly.
should be. And
You could
how
also-
about playing that up? How about contacting family members of people on the Civil War monument and say, read their names? and
If you
have-
could find them, yeah.
I mean, it would take some work, but just find something to build on and not think of this as being the pinnacle, but in the end, it could be the beginning of something good.
You
And
can
those
change it
videos
year
are
to
really
year.
gonna
Yes,
be
I think
beneficial,
so.
because
I
the
really do.
videos, you know, a lot of people are looking at those, and those, then they really know, because they couldn't be at every place. So some didn't see the parade. For example, my family was up by the Common, so by the time the parade got there, it was breaking up. So if you were 200 feet down, you got to see the whole parade. But if you were right at the Common, things were like breaking up at that point. So, but they wanted to be by the Common because they knew that's where the services were going to be in the action. But did you think the unveiling was appropriate for our veteran population?
Yeah.
Yeah, that went well. We,
The only
choreographed.
The only problem I had was, I wanted to go down there and be part of it, so I did.
You did, yeah, absolutely.
And then I had people yelling at me, "You gotta go back up there, we still gotta do this."
Yeah, you will.
So the other
And
thing
then
I
I
was
had
gonna
too many
say,
people
the
wanting to grab me.
guns. We need to have the right people to do the guns. Not that the Balenciaga wasn't wonderful, but don't you have the one, didn't they used to do like 3 little bang bangs in the air or?
Remember, that was a friction point. The National Guard could not carry weapons in their cars because they didn't have a military vehicle at their access.
So how could we get a military vehicle? How about these people that were military vehicles in there?
Oh,
Could
that,
they?
no, that doesn't,
That's not
no,
the
it
right
has to
one?
be a DOD.
So how do we,
defense.
how do we get that, to make that a little bit better? 'Cause
I think that if
that
we,
could be
maybe
a-
the state police, if they have an honor guard, maybe they have a conveyance that they can do the actual salute at that point.
Yeah, do you think that's something we could perfect in
We're
for
gonna
next
reach out
year?
to the state police, yeah.
Do we have to do that earlier?
Yeah.
And what about
You're gonna,
themes?
you know, I'm not the greatest fan of the Hubbardston Militia, but they've been here doing this for a long time. If we throw them out the door,
It could be both, you can have
Could be
both.
both.
Yeah, I
Why couldn't we
also
do both?
agree that
find a way, we
they
can find a
were,
way to do it.
they're representative of the town, they've been around since 1975, I was on the Minutemen originally, and, you know, they went through the Call of Arms, and
It's
the
quite
guns
unique.
fired.
It was unique, you know, it takes a long time for them to get prepared just to shoot the round.
Absolutely, yeah,
That was kind
so,
of like
no,
a
I
history
think,
in its making.
and if we're gonna cover all the wars, like you're just saying, that's
Why not?
Reservoir.
Yep.
But
So-
that's also like another thing that you could do is like theme years, you know, this was for Vietnam veterans and, you know, you say for all, but what about if you did the Civil War and you started there and then the following year you
Sure,
did,
absolutely.
you know, the Army or, you know, the Navy or whatever it might be, and then your things could revolve around that, you know, as if you have Civil War dress or you have, you know, so then you're not incorporating everything and that buys you, you know, what, 7 years of doing this, where it's the year of the, you know, like Chinese calendar, it's the year of the dragon, it's the year, you know, or whatever it might be. It's that, it gives you that focus, it gives you something to focus on.
As a matter of fact, if you wanted to follow up on that, if you decided to do a Civil War theme, the Civil War reenactors, they wouldn't necessarily be Hubbardston, but they'd love to come out for something
I
like
went
this.
to a Civil War reenactment in Winchendon several years ago. It was an encampment.
Yes.
It was a 3-day event, and I was really surprised at the number of people that were there, and how many reenactors were there.
If you get out of
They came from
Minuteman
all
Park, you get guys dressed up with the Revolutionary War stuff,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
maybe we contacted them, they'd
So
send
that's,
something.
yeah, and that way you could have your people, you could have your floats revolve around that, and it's just, you know, but still have all the veterans
Yeah.
and everybody included, but then that's your focus, you know.
This sounds,
even
I'm
speeches.
kinda liking this.
Yeah, I think that theme, like doing,
I can
well,
see
at
the
another
golden
meeting, we'll
pages.
talk about maybe what theme we wanna do next, but you have Revolutionary War reenactors, you have Civil War
And you
reenactors.
start down at the bottom, you know, you not, I don't say bottom, but older, you know, you go older to, you know, newer, and like I said, you have this for the monument, but doesn't mean that you can't, like I said, do that, any poems or any literature going back to Civil War, I mean, you could make a whole big thing and have that up at the common as
Then
speakers or.
it's entertaining and educational.
Mhm.
And maybe, now it's on, we could do if we did like a Civil War one, they could do an encampment up on the rec field as a beginning
Mhm.
to it, because they love doing those things. I'm a consultant for the American Heritage Museum in Hudson, and they have those weekends. They have a Revolutionary War weekend, they have a Civil War weekend, they have a World War II weekend.
Or you could set it up in the parking lot like you did this time, although it's not a grassy field, you could do it here and have people come over and see it after, which would drive them over to the senior center and drive them
Yeah,
over for
as
hot
opposed to
dogs.
the tanks, yeah.
You can go to Lexington and ask them where they get all the uniforms.
Oh, you can't
Yeah.
believe how accurate they
know,
are, because
I
they
know.
have reviews in the morning and your shoes aren't laced the right
Yeah.
way. So,
But that would be a procedure, you know, and then everybody would realize, hey, look at, this is what they did last year. Hey, this year we're gonna go, we're gonna get hot dogs, we're gonna go get ice cream, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna see a display, you know, and your display's here and it's safe because it's blocked off. I couldn't even get
I
food
think
down
we have
here.
some really good ideas now springing onto the
Then you
table.
could
Yeah,
do
food for
Spanish
thought.
American, there's some guy look like Teddy Roosevelt, you could bring the horses down.
San Juan Hill, we could
Yeah.
reenact San Juan Hill, yeah. I think,
So, you know, that was now my next question is, okay, I think they're great ideas. I'm willing to go along with what anybody wants to do. I'd be right there with you. I'll help the best I can. Now, do you think you wanna wait until December before you start doing all this?
Oh, no,
Mm-mm.
no.
I think we need to, this is a project that you kinda have to work all year trying to figure out getting your band, getting this, getting that, getting. So probably after the summer, maybe again, we can do stuff between us, we can call back and forth to try to get what we need to get, but we probably need to have, what do you think on the meetings?
So I think you guys should wait until after July 1st, probably, it would be my recommendation, cause then you're gonna have your budget and you know what you can do, you'll be able to talk to them about any donations and stuff like that. Have another meeting, you guys can all process this information, everybody can process it and come back with other ideas, and then you can start putting that in the works. Right
So-
now, it's hard to put it in the works before
Yes,
your
it
town
is.
election
Yeah.
and the fiscal year hasn't ended yet.
So, go ahead, Joe.
Just in my mind, I'm kind of like, okay, it's Memorial Day, that we all know what it's all about. I'm just thinking about the new veterans that haven't been acknowledged either. Do we need to wait 50 years for that? The Persian Gulf War vets, the Afghanistan vets, all these veterans that they're mentioned every day and different things, but it's like we need to remember them also, I think, somewhere down the line, not saying this next year, but if you're gonna continue on trying to promote the town and educate them about these young kids that step to the plate after 9/11.
Yeah.
I've already thought of a place for the monument.
No, I
That's a
know.
good idea, and you know what, you would also bring your younger families with the younger kids.
Oh, you think you will,
They
but
would be proud.
the
This, if we do
kids
the,
don't wanna be involved in a lot of things. I belong to the VFW and our membership is dying, and the young vets, that they're raising their families, they don't have time to participate. Our honor guard is all, most of the guys on the honor guard for the VFW and Gardner are at least 65 or over. We have a few young members. It's not that they're not patriotic, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
They have
but you
to-
know, the thing is, that I like that idea, Joe, because you'll bring the younger vets, you'll bring their families, their children will be proud that they're being honored on that day. Cause,
Alright.
I mean, my kids are bigger, they were proud of Rogers being the, you know, and he never would even talk about it. He would never talk about his experiences, he would never, nothing. But when this came up, it made him better, it made the kids all there, even my little autistic boy was there. So everybody was there to support him, so if we go to the older monuments, those people are all gone, you know?
They start
This way
letting
we
work
would
back.
probably, I mean, I'm not saying no, do it, but if we do the younger vets, it would probably help the people that are alive, families that are alive, kids that are alive, they can honor their dad, show them how much they need to be honored too. So, that's a good
But they haven't
point,
got
I
a
think.
they haven't received
done
in this
anything.
town a, welcome home in a sense
Right.
also, but that's
That's a
the
good
way
idea.
it is sometimes.
Mhm.
It's
So,
just-
so we have a couple of options there, we could honor,
I don't wanna disrupt what you already spoke, cause that's all good ideas.
yeah, but you need to
To
have,
keep it going, that's what we need in town here.
Right. keep it going, and we need to have more participation, and that way we would get the younger families, they would appreciate what their parents have done for them, and they're still living. The older, the Civil War monument is, nobody's still living, you know, but I'm not saying that isn't a good thing though.
Yeah, but still, Claudia, you know what's kinda interesting, I mean, when I went up and I looked at the World War II and the World War I monument, the names on there, those people are still, the families are still here in town. I didn't look at the Civil War monument, and I will, but it wouldn't surprise me
There are a lot of names.
Yes.
if
Yeah, a lot of
the,
them.
some of
Streets
the
named after some of the
families-
families.
Yeah.
And I'm not
They're
saying
still in
just
town.
like exclude the people, you know, up at the rec field or up at the common, you know, we would talk about all groups, but even if, and I'm not saying just because if you decided this time to do a Civil War, that you couldn't do, you know, a newer, you know, you could, you're not saying you have to climb up a ladder, you know, but at least it has, like, you have a focus to focus on instead of, you know, like this year, your focus was the Vietnam Memorial, that's what you guys worked on, that's where you found your information, and that's why if you have something to focus on again, that's, you know, and no matter what it is, you know, I mean, all of them made a sacrifice, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so, but like I said, and
By
we really
trying,
wanna
by
make sure
trying
everybody's
to,
included.
by trying to do this, though, we're, the way that we had to do the one that we have, which is to work in an era, not a, you know, so it was anybody that was there from 55 to 75. So now this one's gonna pick up at 75 and go to, that's what they're gonna do, they're gonna have an era. Or they may not, they may start a new era at 9/11. But it's gonna go to some point. I think it's a great idea, I mean, that those people have, but the question is, what's the other end, or has it happened yet? For that era? It's a good question we need to ask, because if we don't have we have a starting point, or we could decide we'd have to know what that point is, and then we'd have to know whether we're still in the damn thing.
You know, we would go to the Veteran Administration and see if they have a definition
Right.
of, you know, periods.
The
And then
9/11.
have a beginning and an ending if there
Right.
is such a thing.
I just wanna donate, not donate, but just do all of history next year, or do you wanna divide it up year by year for individual?
I think a theme is a better idea.
Yeah.
And, because then we can emphasize it
Yeah.
versus trying to be generic.
Like teaching the
But
kids
that would
too.
give us a beginning, where,
Yeah.
if that worked, and it generated the excitement and activity and interest and attendance, then we could do it over again, you know, take another one. And maybe even ask the, you know, get some kind of a survey to see what they'd like to see, you know. Cause as far as, getting if we were looking for the older groups or the reenactors and stuff like that, they,
Might not be,
Then-
though.
yeah, but they enjoy
Dying.
doing those things.
Now, didn't militiamen from Hubbardston go to Worcester?
Yes, yeah, they took over the courthouse.
Yeah.
The revolution, that was really,
Shays Rebellion.
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
there was somebody from Shays Rebellion who
That's
lived
correct,
here,
yeah.
and I think he's got descendants, whoever it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But-
My
but
great
that
great great
particular
grandfather
event-
was a Shay. Yeah.
you know, Lexington and Concord did a better PR job in those days than a bigger
Yeah.
municipality like
Well,
Worcester.
My great grandfather was in the Civil War, right? But he was in the 9th New Jersey Volunteer Infantry, so what the hell was he doing in New Jersey? Cause he was from Stoneham. I dug around, asked a bunch of questions, and because New Jersey paid more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
They
think I
weren't
told you
stupid.
my grandmother's cousin got killed in France.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that, yeah.
They named a street after him in Stoneham.
During World War II?
World War One.
World War One.
Plus,
He was an older cousin.
Okay.
Well,
Why not?
we have a lot of things to think about.
I looked
But
up
the
World
points-
War One uniforms online to see if we wanted to buy them for this year. And the cheapest one I saw, I think, was $300.
I can get you a better deal than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
he knows.
I know a guy.
I know a guy who knows a guy. All right,
Well,
what do you
I
think?
guess we're
Should
gonna-
we, my input would be, do you wanna, like, not set a date let us think about it, and then sometimes shortly after, Labor Day, to get together again?
I think we should set the date, and we can always change the date if something comes up. I think we should have the date, cause then we know we're gonna meet, and that we should think about what we said. I don't know about doing a survey, if we think we should
No,
do
not
that.
this year.
No.
Yeah, no.
In the
for-
future.
In the future,
If we do
okay.
one theme year and people like it, then ask for their feedback and then see what they'd like to see next. And then maybe
Yeah.
give them a choice, you know?
And Katie's
Put your
done
calendar
surveys
up.
and they're easy where you can
Yeah.
have different eras to go off of, you know, that it's a quick, population
Yeah,
to get your answer.
so should we
Maybe
do
try
September,
August even,
August,
the beginning of August.
you think?
We have no town meeting, 4th of July will be done, your new budget will be here. I have an election in September, so it's gonna be a little bit busier. I mean, I don't
We have
to
the
be
yard
here,
sale in
but-
September. So August, the end of August, so we're gonna do a Wednesday, so August 31st. Is that good?
That's before Labor Day. Labor Day is the week
Yeah.
after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the week after? Okay, 8/31.
How's that sound? Now, I'm hoping we'll have the same committee, I'm hoping you guys will all still
Is that
participate.
appointed? And how many are?
They're working on appointments now, Tony she's out sick, but I will work with her to see, I wanna say it's like 4 or 5 off the top of my head.
Okay. Cause I had a volunteer, Benjamin Ford, who showed up that day and asked if he could help, and he jumped right in on the common and, kept on coming, well, what can I do, what else can I do? And I've given you his, email address and phone number, and he said, he wants to get more involved, and
Haven't
he
given it
thought.
to me yet, have you?
Yeah,
Have
I
you?
have,
You
yeah,
did?
yeah, it's in an email,
I'll go look.
but
And
yeah.
just because they're not members, you can also
They can
have
s-
help.
They can still come to the
Okay, yeah.
meetings and work on it, you don't
And
have
I'd
to
like
be a
to
member.
see, yeah, he may work full-time, he may not be able to get meetings like we can, but I would absolutely, say he would be a real addition
Involved.
to it because he jumped right in and, as a volunteer, so he would be, a good person.
So 31st, 10 a.m. you say?
10 or 11.
11?
Oh, is that what time? I don't know. 11 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I'll just get the agenda from you after.
And
Okay,
you'll be walking
well,
good by then.
if we're all set, do we have any other things we wanna talk about, anything, we got a lot to think about, you got anything we wanna talk about? All good? Well, let's adjourn, let's have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Second?
Okay. Have a nice summer, everybody. Yeah.